So my guest, Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, whose book, The Roots of Jihad, is available, I'm sure, on the internet and elsewhere. I have to challenge you on something you said, because I have a feeling it hasn't been heard before on Canadian television, and there'll be many people who are deeply offended by it, although being offended is not the worst thing in the world. Truth is more important than simply the fear of causing offence. You say that sexual frustration leads some people to commit acts of terrorism.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that in Muslim teaching, and I support this teaching, a sexual relationship is only within marriage.
Which is good.
And it's critical of masturbation, critical of extramarital affairs, all of that I can understand. But you're saying that men who cannot have a sexual relationship become so frustrated, the idea of virgins awaiting them in paradise is enough for them to kill themselves and kill other people?
Yes, I was personally ready to do this just for this reason, honestly.
And with all due respect, that isn't just you?
Not just me. Many around me, many friends around me in the Jama'ah Islamiyah, but I'm talking here about the mentality of the jihadists, not probably ordinary Muslims in the streets, it's jihadists who are, and if you see the letters that were given to the suicide bombers, most of them are talking about women in paradise. So I'm not just saying something out of vacuum. If you see the letters themselves, it's clearly about women waiting for them in the paradise. And this was a very powerful motivating factor and can partially, as I mentioned, explain why Sunni Muslims are more liable to do suicide bombings than Shia Muslims, because Shia has some element of sexual release through mut'a marriage, which is temporary marriage for enjoyment, as I explained to you. It's approved in the religion.
But Shia Islam, Hezbollah is a Shia organization. I mean, maybe not suicide bombings, but
not suicide bombings.
That's different.
I'm talking about suicide bombings. The concept of to die to enter the paradise. That is different from doing terrorism. You can attack someone remotely, but to go yourself and die partially is related to this issue of sexual deprivation syndrome. Certainly. There are many evidence. There are letters that are given to the terrorists, to the suicide bombers before doing the attacks. The percentage of suicide bombers in Shia is much less than Sunni, who they have some element of sexual release through mut'a marriage. And this is concrete evidence. Plus my personal experience that I shared it with many others as well, which I personally was ready to do this just to make sex in paradise. This was my dream back then. I have to be honest with you. It's embarrassing, but I'm just
don't be embarrassed. I say, the truth must always be discussed, even if it does make some people uncomfortable. You said that for the longest time, Egypt, for example, was a moderate country in terms of Islam. If it was moderate before the influence of Saudi Arabia and extremism, could it be moderate again?
Yes, but it's a bit difficult. It's not impossible, but it's not, reversibility is possible. But you have to use very accurately measured strategical steps and tactical steps to achieve this. It's not a simple reversal process. It's the biochemical reaction happened and there is new products now and people are brainwashed, and it's not an issue of just information, it's an issue of perception. So you can provide the information, but the process of brainwashing that happened to this generation in the last few decades have changed the perception itself. So it can happen, certainly, but it has to be well adjusted and organized to do it successfully.
How would we do that?
How would you do that? Number one, if you analyze the whole problem, you can see that there is an element of violent sort of teaching, the Salafi teaching, okay? It creates what I call a generation that have some tendency to accept certain violent things, like killing apostate, declaring jihad on others. They accept it. They don't do it, but they accept it. And that's why they don't demonstrate against the terrorists. They don't issue fatwa against bin Laden. Till now, there is no single fatwa, as you see, against bin Laden. So this group of people is a significant majority. I call them passive terrorists. They don't do attacks. They don't do anything, but they support it. And this is clear by their passive attitude toward bin Laden, and they don't do demonstrations against him. The third level is the active terrorists, who conduct the attacks themselves. They are a very small percentage of Muslims who will reach that level. But there is always tendency that the passive terrorists can change into jihadists. The passive terrorists, or the majority, are interested in applying Sharia law again, which means you will be deprived of all your freedom at the end. If Sharia law simply means killing apostate, beating women is allowed, calling Jews pigs and monkeys is okay, declaring wars to spread Islam is fine, enslaving female war presidents and raping them is okay. This is part of Sharia.
We had a debate on Sharia law in this province, and it didn't occur, but there were many advocates of Sharia law who would completely object to what you said.
They object what? They can open any Sharia book and this is standard teaching. What they object about? This is standards of their teaching. If it's not a standard in the teaching, let them openly in the mosque and in the Islamic organization denounce these things. And I will be the first person to salute them. Let them denounce these things. Let them stand next Friday in the mosques here in Canada and say killing the apostates is wrong, beating women is wrong, calling Jews pigs and monkeys is a sin and wrong.
There are Muslim leaders who say that. There are Muslim leaders who do speak out and say
if they said this clearly, openly, in an unambiguous manner in the mosques, I will be the first person to salute them.